Well, Brooke, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining.
See you.
Good to see you. I just saw you 2 days ago in
Mhm.
Nashville at the Dove Awards.
Yeah,
And then there was an after party later with a bunch of different artists and just people in the industry, producers and songwriters. And you were there. And that's actually where we first met.
yeah, that's where we went. So I'm glad we got that, and now we got this because
I know
this is
now.
this meeting. So now
And now we
we're
have this.
we're already in the stream.
Right.
As-
So I'll say this as a worship leader, I knew you originally through some of your early songs and your first name, Brooke Fraser,
Mhm.
right? So as I was prepping for this, I was like, wait, how do you say her last name? Is it Ligertwood? Is it Liger? Oh, so I started diving deep into like different interviews you've done before. And you know what's funny? No one says your last name, as if everybody's avoiding it
It's true,
because
and
they
I
don't want to
have
mess it up.
it's no problem.
Literally, of like 10 of the interviews I watched, like nine of
Yeah,
them, no one said your last name. They're just, hey, Brooke. So, but I found though, it's Ligertwood, right?
yeah, that's right. How did you find it? Maybe we need to help people with that. I don't know, but I also don't care enough to like. I'm not going to correct people because people also say Fraser and it's Fraser, so I don't correct
Oh,
that.
gosh. So I
Yeah,
messed that one up too.
I'm just like whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll
Yeah.
answer whatever you call me.
Yeah. Well, Brooke, I'm glad you're here. And I was also looking up, I mean, I know you've written a ton of songs, but I was looking up like what song specifically, and I was couldn't even believe as I was looking at the list of the magnitude of the songs you've written. I mean,
Mm.
what a beautiful name. Everyone knows that one. King of Kings, Who You Say I Am, A Thousand Hallelujahs,
I didn't write who
Hosanna.
you say I am, though. I didn't write who you say I am.
You
People
didn't?
always go for that. I'm like, I didn't write that. Ben and
Okay.
Ruben wrote that. Ben and
Okay.
Ruben.
Well, thank you for correcting me on that. Hosanna,
Mhm.
that was a huge, huge song when I first like was that when I was leading back at Willow Creek. We played that all the time. Desert Song, Lead Me to the Cross, I Will Exalt You. That is an amazing song. I love that song.
Oh, thank you.
My personal favorite is None But Jesus.
Oh,
I have so many amazing just worship memories of
wow.
that song, leading that song.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's still in my top five of all
Wow.
worship songs. So I mean, you've written so many. So people know you as a worship songwriter. Tell us a little bit about though your music career as Brooke. What was it?
Fraser.
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 And
Fraser.
then tell us just a little bit about that because I think a lot of people don't know that. And
Yeah.
then how and when did you start playing worship music?
Um, so yeah, I guess it's funny you're talking about the songs of worship and all that because I feel really blessedly sheltered from all of that. Because I have spent 20 years primarily as a mainstream artist through Brooke Fraser, and the songs of worship I wasn't writing like as a career or anything. It was just these were the songs that I was writing in my bedroom, and they didn't have a place in my mainstream career, but they incredibly, by the grace of God, had a place in my community of faith. And
Yeah.
then my community of faith kind of went broader than that. But I was pretty disconnected from the reality of that, which I think was a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at no point was I keeping score, like so to speak.
Yeah.
You you write songs to the Lord and they find a place. And I was very much occupied with this other thing. And so it is a really um, humbling place to be now um, as a 39-year-old to then now have all of these songs that God's entrusted to me over the years, and some written specifically for community, but also a lot that just when I think of I Will Exalt You and None But Jesus and songs like that, New Wine, they were just songs that I was writing in my prayer closet, so to speak, to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so now to have all these um, songs feels like such a gift. And then kind of now is the time in my life where I can, for the first time, put my expression in kind of creative language, like musically speaking, and apply that to some of these songs, which I was just honored to write and get to serve through my faith community and then through other friends as well. So it's a wild journey, but I'm really amazed at the grace of God because I'm not that clever.
Yeah. Well, you're a very talented and anointed songwriter. Like there's an anointing on these songs. I think like you can tell that you wrote them in your personal prayer closet because they're so personal. I mean, I think
Mm.
of None But Jesus or I will exalt you. Like those songs are like so just like you and God. Like
Mm,
it's just a very personal and vertical song.
mm.
And I love that. I those are my favorite types of worship songs. But that might be the vineyard coming out of me. That I
Yeah.
just all those songs were just simple and sweet
Yes.
and just intimate, like just
Yeah.
you and God. That's it.
And that's probably so circular as well, because I was so not when I say influenced, it wasn't, but I was so my my earliest my the first my memories of the first few years of my journey with Jesus. There's just songs and sounds that I probably it's the same for everybody attached to those kind of early years of faith or early years of kind
Mhm.
of awakening to Jesus, and Vineyard was such a potent part of that for me.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah, they
so
had something really special going
yeah.
at that time. So, speaking of songs, I'm just curious personally, like what is a worship song right now that's
Mm,
currently really stirring your spirit or
mm,
has helped you through this past season?
mm. By anyone or
Yeah,
some?
by anyone. Like just a song that like you really
Mm.
love. Maybe when you sing it, it just gives you like, goosebumps or makes you just really feel close to
Yeah.
God.
I hate the answer I'm about to give because it sounds like I'm trying to plug something, but
Yeah. And it can be your song.
yeah, I'm just trying to be truthful. But there's a song on this new record called Bless God, and but we didn't write that for this. That was a song that Brandon Lake and Cody and I wrote for Cody's project, Cody Carnes, and he already had that chorus like going into the day. He was like, I've got this chorus, I'd love to see if we could flesh that out. And this song came out, and really I have been pretty flabbergasted at the mercy of God and having me in the room that day, because that song didn't come out for a long time after we wrote it. I think we wrote it
Mm.
in maybe February 2022, and it came out a couple months ago. But in the months after we wrote that song, mine and my husband, our family went through some really intense stuff, and across the world move, and like some
Mhm.
health things and community things and all of these things. And I found myself in this unexpected kind of constellation of trauma. And I had this Dropbox link to just a really simple piano and vocal demo of Cody singing that song that we wrote that day. And that was the song that saw me through this last season. I would get in my car and just put on that really simple demo and I would scream and weep these words at the top of my lungs, kind of driving around after
Yeah.
off. And
Yeah.
it really, really helped me. So I was really grateful that Cody let me do a version as well. And there's an extended version, so that we split it into two tracks. But the second track is just then a tag that kind of just flowed out of me worshiping with it on
Yeah.
the piano one day. The song had already been completed, but just another little part that came out. But that's been a song that has really helped me. And beyond that, I guess I tend to, I don't know if you're the same, but I feel like especially in seasons of trickiness, you kind of, for me, I do like to tend to go back to some of those songs that have been anchor points for me through the
Mhm.
years. So I have been re-listening again to a lot of, Hungry UK,
Yeah.
Vignette UK, and a lot of Delirious. And
Yeah.
so there's one that Martin is on this record with me as well. And yeah, a lot of those songs that Sarah Groves, I always loved Sarah
Yeah.
Groves.
Yeah.
So kind of revisiting a lot of those places, those songs that have been like kind of memorials along my path. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, I love all those. That's cool to hear that Bless God is on your album. I didn't know it was coming up.
Mm.
Because I heard when I was listening to Cody's album, I was like working on something and I heard that bridge come on and I was like, what song is this?
Yeah.
It's an incredible song.
Yeah. It's wild. And so I just, again, I feel like it's just sometimes God is too kind to me, because I really do feel like one of the reasons that I was there because God knew that I would need that song a year and a
Mm.
half before Cody released it. I needed it like right then.
Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing?
Yeah.
So you released your first live solo worship album, Seven, last year, right?
Yep.
What was that experience like? And is there like a memory that stands out from that process?
Just that album was and is a miracle. and it really was one of the holiest things that I've ever been a part of. And just the Lord was so, because also I feel like I can say that because it wasn't my idea. I never wanted to do that. Wasn't my idea. But because it was such a pure obedience thing, and I was so trusting God, that this was something I think he had pretty clearly told me to do, that just every detail was a miracle. And it continued. It was just like so many aspects of the story of every single part of that record was just a miracle. And it felt clean and safe and saturated and soaked. And so really just when I think of that album, I just the word that comes to mind is just it was and is a miracle. Yeah.
I love Honey in the Rock. My wife loves that song too. She's always playing that song.
It's such a fun one.
So that was live. Is 8 live?
No, 8's not live, but I don't want people to notice that it's not. And so I love one of the things that I love about the song of worship is that it's just this very clear meeting of the divine and the human. And so the sound of in worship for me, I really love the sound of humaning. Mm-hmm. So it's a studio record, but I was pretty intentional about making it feel really human. And I think that it was. So there's the sound of, so I use a lot of room sound, a lot of the sound of people kind of rustling and moving around, like a lot of the sound of prayer. So like incense is, there's many long stories about that song and the way that we produced that and the things that I wanted to put in there to make that feel like it does. But yeah, so all that to say, it's not a lot. This is such a long answer for such a simple question, but this is a studio album, but I hope that it doesn't feel, I hope that it still, I think that it still feels like
church. Church. Yeah, people singing worship songs. So tell us about 8. So it releases tomorrow, which actually when people watch this, I don't know when that's going to be, but it releases tomorrow, which is October
20. So it might as well be out now. When people are watching, it's out now. Yeah,
it's out. Go listen to it. So tell us about like the album and the heart behind it and the vision. I'm very passionate about the theology of beauty and the theology of art and the redemptive role of art in the church. And so I go in pretty heavy on these things. I'm in some ways, I feel like I was supposed to be living like the 1600s or something, because I feel not born for this era. But I also love books. I say all that to say I understand what data tells us about blah blah blah, and albums are over, and people are all about tracks and da da da. But when we look at God, God is a God of story, and stories have chapters and plots and things that unfold and twist and turn. And so I'm really passionate about albums being reflective of story. So not just the individual stories of the songs, but how all of these chapters of the book, of the album, kind of weave together and are bringing different angles of one narrative. So the intent would be, I would hope that I know that people will cherry pick whatever they want, and that's totally fine. I understand that, but for people who want to have a different kind of listening experience, it's a pretty deliberately and intentionally crafted journey for you to listen to from start to finish without shuffling. I had a really lovely conversation just a couple of hours ago with someone who said he appreciated how the moments that were heavy, that we kind of lifted it just in time before it felt too much and kind of took another turn. So it's really supposed to be, for whomever wants to experience it this way, a real journey through kind of encounter. Yeah. So why 7 and 8? Like, so is the next one 9? Explain the numbers.
Well, 7 was supposed to be it. Like,
okay.
one and done. And so that was because of Revelation 1. I'd been sitting in the book of Revelation and studying that, and Jesus standing in the middle of the seven lampstands, and the seven lampstands of the seven churches, and I was told to write down what you see and send it to the churches. And the Lord had given me, in a radically short space of time, all of these songs, one after the other, that felt as if they'd been being written for years and years, but they came literally in 5 weeks. And I wasn't trying to write an album. It was, COVID was just over, and I had obviously not gone anywhere in a long time, and had been really kind of in the weeds of a lot of administration and detail, and what my role had been then in our own community, and just had written maybe one day in the past year. So it kind of wasn't over, but the travel restrictions kind of lifted. And so I texted a couple of my friends and was just like, hey, I've got an itch to scratch. Do you want to spend some time together? And it was really, honestly, just like over really only a couple of handfuls of days in about 5 weeks that astonishingly the Lord just gave us these songs but the fact that they weren't all, I didn't have two of the same song. As each song came along, it felt like they were chapters of the same book, that they were, that they all belonged together, that they were a collection. And so I felt like, not that John, but I was just like, I felt like this is what the Lord has given me to send to the church at this time. And I felt a real sense of urgency about it, that I needed to do that now. So 7 was 7 just because of, I said to Scotty, my husband, who is over kind of all of the creative for everything we do, I said, I want to, I think it has something, I think the title has to have something to do with, Revelation 1 and what I've been studying and sitting in. I was like, but 7 lampstands doesn't really have doesn't really roll off the tongue. And he's like, all right, let me think about it. I went out for a couple of hours to do some errands, and I came back, and my husband is very prophetic. He's a songwriter. So he co-wrote King of Kings and a bunch of other amazing songs, but he's very prophetic when it comes to visual and how to tell a story. So I came back from running errands, and he said, I think the Lord gave me something. And he turned around his computer screen and it just said 7, that word that you see. And then all of these kind of icons that represent the different, all of the things in the chapters. So anyway.
That is awesome. I love that. Thanks for explaining that.
That's all right. And then 8's just the next number after 7. So people are like, what's the meaning of 8? And I was like, it's just like the next number.
Just coming next. And then number 9 is next.
Yeah. And I
now
think
you're on the train. You have to just keep going.
I'm on the train. And so for me as well, because I have probably a couple of dozen songs that I want to be able to, from over the years, that I want to be able to present. Yeah. So and also because I have already a solo career as Brooke Fraser over here. Yeah. So to me, just to keep the songs of worship for the church in an identifiable kind of volumes, for me makes.
I love it. Yeah. Wait, I have a question about songwriting for you. When you decide, so do you ever write alone, or do you always co-write?
No, I mostly write alone.
Okay, and so when you decide, like, okay, I'm going to write a song today. What do you do? Like, do you just sit down with your guitar and start trying to come up with a melody, or do you start like writing words down? Like,
this is what's terrible about me is I don't think I've ever decided to write a song and it ever worked. It's always, for me, the song
found you
song at the beginning. It comes to me usually in the shower or in the car, or I remember I wrote a song called "Awake My Soul," and I vividly remember driving to, I had just dropped off our daughter, who was very little then. I had dropped her off at preschool, and I just heard that melody of the verse, there is a sound I love to hear, da, 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 da. And just, so it's usually in the car or in the shower, or doing a very ordinary life. But for me, I write every day, but I only write a few times a year. But the writing is actually the input. The writing is just your everyday walking around, the Romans 12 kind of message paraphrase, like your everyday ordinary life, and presenting it, making it an offering. And so I could never be anybody who wrote like 5 days a week, because I think I wouldn't have anything to say that mattered. I think before you speak as a songwriter, before you say anything or try to put pen to paper, I hope that we would spend a lot more time listening than we do talking, because then if we spend more time listening, hopefully when we do speak, we're able to say something that actually matters. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. What is one song on the album that you really hope worship leaders listen to when it releases? Is there a song that you really hope that worship leaders could take it to their church and lead it?
I think Bless God is a song that is a really helpful song. So I've gotten to lead that a few times just over the past few months, and in rooms where people are hearing it for the first time, and have been really honestly taken aback at how at the immediacy with which people grab it. And I know, as a worship leader, when you're introducing a new song, some songs are going to take time to take root with the congregation and but it's always almost like a sense of relief when you have a song that you feel like you can lean on, and this is trustworthy, and this is actually going to give people something to sing that's going to help them, that they can grab onto. So I think Bless God is a really helpful song. And then,
That is a good one. That does seem like one that the church is going to really grab a hold of, and it'll become a staple.
Yeah, I hope.
Okay.
Well, also, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to turn off notifications. Because I don't even know.
That's all right. It's totally fine. So I've got two more questions for you. One's light. Actually, they're both pretty light. But what, like if you were having coffee with a young worship leader, maybe like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, you even, maybe you're even talking to yourself. What's like some advice you would give for a young worship leader or a young songwriter who's just getting started? They want to be a worship leader. They want to write songs. What you wish that maybe someone would have told you, or what would you want to pass on to someone?
I just, I would honestly say, lean so hard into community, and don't underestimate the treasure of community and the ways that the Lord will disciple you through community, not even by necessarily someone actively discipling you, but just the way that existing in community. I know for me, like, I feel like the Lord used it to, I've still got some spiky edges, but the Lord used it, to smooth just some of the parts of me that were just like too, and then just, now, even though our, my faith community's gone through and still going through a really difficult time, but I look at the richness of the relationships that a lot of us have, that we've been serving God together for 20 years. And when there's real, actual community and relationships there, that is just one of the greatest treasures of my life. And I said to one of my friends the other day, we were talking about it, like, if we could know even the things that would be hard and even the things that would go terribly wrong and all of these things, like, I would still choose yes all over again because of the friendships and the relationships and the depth of relationship that you have with people when you've been serving the Lord together for literally decades. So I would just say lean into community, because then whatever happens, whether you do what you hope to vocationally or not, twists and turns, you will be you will learn the treasure of like having real fellowship in the house of God, and that will enable you to continue to serve God in whatever form that might take. Sometimes we get very attached to how we want God to use us, but we kind of don't really get to choose that. So community, place in which we can kind of work out and wrestle with those questions in a place of safety and richness of relationship. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that. It made me think of after the awards show, the Dove Award show. I was talking with a friend, and we were talking about how, like these awards, these accomplishments are so great here, but like those aren't going to be like something you take to heaven with you.
No.
But what you can take to heaven with you are people.
That's right.
Like you could take your family with you. You can't like take your money and your possessions and your guitars and whatever. Yeah. But you can take your family. You could take your friends. You could take the lives of the people that, and that's what's important. Like, how are you impacting and loving people? And
that's right.
So I think that's a really good word about community, because we're going to go to heaven with those people. So, this is a very light question, but it just let, and this is my final question, but it lets us into the inside world of like what your world looks like when you're not performing and on stage and writing songs. Like, give us a little bit sneak peek into the real world of Brooke. You've actually mentioned a few times here, like preschool or school drop off, but like, what does a week or a day look like for you typically? Like when you're at home, you know,
Yeah.
are you making pancakes? You're doing the school drop off. Like, do you travel a lot? Or you like, what's it look like?
I feel like I'm a very frustrating person to answer this because I have not had a week that looks the same in 25 years.
Yeah.
I literally haven't. I don't even know what that would be like.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
so
doesn't feel normal to you.
no, there's no, well, I don't know. It's normal to me, but it's normal to me that every single week is different and I'm doing different things.
Something totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
yeah.
you
And
said
I
you don't write every day,
no, maybe a few
but
times.
you're always maybe like just singing in your, yeah, in the
No,
car. Or,
because for me, like writing the actual act of putting pen to paper and kind of melody to voice memo. Whatever. For me, that should be the last step,
hmm,
not the first step. So there's so many things that should happen, in my view, before this actual act of articulation comes out, and that has to be study, has to be soaking in scripture, it has to be um, trying to serve my family better, it has to be kind of it has to be surrender. It's the life that, you know, if a well-crafted song is is kind of a good sharp tip of the spear, but the thing that's going to give it the power to penetrate is first of all the anointing of God, but secondly, hopefully, the weight of a surrendered life. A surrendered life carries weight, and that's often something that God can then place anointing upon, and then that's actually the power that, like, so I feel like so many people are spend all this time trying to sharpening the tips of their spears, but
hmm,
there's nothing behind them. They're trying to sharpen a toothpick. And so
wow.
I feel like so much of our lives as songwriters has to be living out. The Lord hears the song of our lives way louder than he hears the song of our
Yeah.
lips. So write the
Wow.
song of your life before you try to write a song that will go on someone's lips. Yeah.
Wow. That's good. I think that's a good place to end this. It was really great to meet you. Thank you for doing this, and congrats on the album release.
Thank you
I can't wait to listen to it.
very much. And thanks for everything that you do. Keep
Yeah,
going.
absolutely. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Couldn't do what we do without you. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube. Stay tuned. We got a bunch more stuff coming. Appreciate you guys. See ya.